Welcome. Welcome to another episode of the impact of AI and big data. Each week, we explore how data impacts us both personally and professionally. This episode is sponsored by WILDA, Women Leaders in Data and Artificial Intelligence. Throughout the last couple of years, we've explored several areas of transformation, the impact of AI, how data is making better informed decisions. And we focused in kind of three pillars. One is our consulting firms looking at the broader perspective. Two has been looking at startups and the impact of AI in the mid-market and new suppliers that are entry into the market. And third has been looking at the industry itself. But I want to introduce a fourth pillar, and that's the next generation of talent. And we have Skyla here today, and Skyla is going to be talking to us about her experience within the university and then her experience in leaving university and entering the job market. Welcome, Skyla.
Thank you.
So Skyla, you recently graduated from Nichols College, which is in Boston. And what I thought was really interesting when you and I spoke is that you did not walk into the university setting thinking technology.
Yep, I was on the accounting track when I first started. My bachelor's degree actually is in a concentration in accounting. But my advisor, who was my accounting professor, he actually introduced me to the world of automation when I was looking for an apprenticeship I was looking for an apprenticeship, and he helped me out. And I didn't even do any work accounting related outside of school, or like tax purposes. Now I am entirely in a career for automation.
So when you're having that conversation with your advisor, how did he approach the subject with you? Because at this point in your career, or your mindset, you're in accounting. So help me understand a little bit more about what did he say that made you think, oh, this is kind of interesting?
I think at that time he knew me better than I knew myself when it came to my academics. He also knew that I was really busy. I was working two jobs at that time, so my grades weren't really reflective on how well of a student I actually am, just because I was so busy. And he knew that I was great at puzzles. Like, that's what originally drew me into accounting, because of how well I am at like problem solving and puzzles. I was thinking about going into auditing. And he just introduced me to the accounting internship, or not the accounting internship, sorry, the automation internship, because he thought I should give it a try because of how well I am at puzzles and just how different it was. He could tell I was bored and I just needed something different.
So at Nichols College, there is a, was this CIPA, the Center of Intelligent Process Automation, correct?
Yeah, so I started with an internship, the RAI, and then I went into the apprenticeship at CIPA.
Okay.
After graduation.
What was your internship? What did they introduce you to?
That was a basic introduction to automation and its capabilities. That's how I discovered that I liked it. And then I wanted to give CIPA a try to just to further that introduction, just to make sure I really knew that I liked that before completely switching directions from accounting.
So earlier you mentioned that perhaps being an accountant was not, I'll say, intellectually stimulating, which probably was causing the boredom. What about technology was exciting to you?
I wouldn't even say it's the technology aspect. I think it's more so trying to find efficiencies in business processes. And then from there, automation was the solution. And then that's what kind of keeps me going, trying to just find those efficiencies for those businesses.
When we talk about automation, the folks listening to this, automation can be a broad term. And I think there's a lot of different technologies that could be used in the definition of automation. What was automation to you? What were you doing?
At that time, I was just like improving manual processes. Anything rule-based and repetitive is
Mhm.
like the definition of automation. I was using nice automation studios when we first started the internship, and then going into the apprenticeship with CIPA, we were using Power Automate with Microsoft.
And you mentioned repetitive. So the more tactical, repetitive processes that probably was a lot of data entry.
Yeah, that's a common automation scenario. Really anything that happens like once a day or once a week, or
Mhm.
something that happens just repetitively. It's not just a one and done.
Can you give us an example of maybe some of the projects that you did in your internship or something you did earlier?
Yeah, so just to think during the internship, it was a lot of training. We did a lot of like modules through Microsoft when learning Power Automate. So one example is sending an email every other week reminding employees to like enter their time for payroll.
Hmm.
Like it was the same email body from the same supervisor, and it's just goes out to all employees, just sending them that reminder.
Is there any other examples you'd like to
Um,
outline?
yeah, one that I'm actually working on right now. It's so it's not necessarily automation, it kind of fits more into the intelligence. We're using Power Apps for that.
Hmm.
They these employees, so the way that they have it right now is employees submit reimbursement requests like manually on like a physical paper form.
Hmm.
And the way that I'm building the Power App is so they can have it on their phone or on their computer, whichever the employee prefers, and they can just submit that through the Power App. And then the supervisors using the same app can approve or deny those same requests. And then the end goal, I haven't done any discovery on this part yet. It's the
Hmm.
next phase, but they're eventually going to want that data into their accounting system.
So with the experience that you had at Nichols College, you then made this decision that this is what you really like and going out into the, what I'm going to call the real world. This is where you wanted to focus your career.
It really is. Yeah. I love it. I love what I'm doing.
So you are at a company at the moment with the title of automation engineer. I want to explore that a little bit because oftentimes we hear automation engineer, automation developer, automation processes. And I think a lot of times those terminologies get confused with computer engineer or an engineer that's building a structure. So, how would you define this automation engineer?
Yeah, that's actually funny because a lot of people think that when I say automation engineer, they think I'm talking about actual robots or like an actual factory engineer. So I just reiterate the fact that I'm in technology. Like I explain the software that I use right now, Power Automate or
Mhm.
any Microsoft products really, and that I just improve efficiencies with your processes. The first step is of discovery is to just really listen and pay attention to their processes to try to find the best one to automate.
Mhm.
So that's what I really start with, and I explain that that's what I like to do to start with. Even if they have something on their in their minds, I still like to dig a little bit deeper to get the, like the whole idea really. And I just explain, give examples even
Mhm.
of what automation can do, and just to give them a good sense of what it really is.
I think it sounds like you've got a very natural intuitive instinct because one of the things that we focus on, in the consulting firms or even in industry is that no matter what, you have to listen to your internal customer. Because a lot of times, and I think you just articulated this perfectly, they may come to you with what they want, but then as you go through your discovery, you realize that maybe that's not quite what you needed, or you explained to me what you want, but you didn't quite explain it in a way that made sense. And now that we're exploring this, what you really want is over here, not what's right in front of you.
Yeah, that happens all of the time when they have something in mind. They explain to me that process, and then I'm like, I think the process definitely needs to improve, but I wouldn't say automation is the answer for that
Okay.
process. Um, and then we dig a little bit deeper and try to find maybe the first half of that process could be automated, or like the second half, or just random pieces rather than that whole broad process.
So within your company, is it these, what I'm going to call these other stakeholders, these business units, these individuals that you work with, are they coming to your group because they're excited that maybe somebody can help them with some automation or process efficiencies? Or is this where you guys in your group have to really go out and get them excited and help them understand what it is that you guys do and how you can help them?
Yeah, a lot of the time people just come to me,
Okay.
but it is new to them. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it's other people within the organization that go to them, give them the whole spiel about automation to begin with, and then they have like that's what gives them something in mind, and then they come to me explaining what they want, and then they are super excited. A lot of them never even heard of automation before, or they have, but they didn't know if it was a good fit for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I just really then explain if it is a good fit for them,
Mm-hmm.
because it's also a cost. A lot of small businesses might not be able to afford that right now, or maybe it's something that they can do themselves. Uh, so
Huh.
yeah.
That's actually a really good observation. You also mentioned that as you're diving deeper into discovery, you talk about processes where maybe an efficiency or an improvement could be made, but it's not quite the right opportunity for automation. Can you give an example of something like that?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to think
You're
of a
fine.
good example to use for that. Uh, usually when the process is just a mess to begin with, or when you talk to a bunch of different people that are involved in that process,
Mm-hmm.
and they all have a different explanation of the process.
Okay.
Like they don't like the process doesn't really exist to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the struggle. You need a detailed like step by step process in order to actually automate it. And that is part of my job to
Mm-hmm.
figure out that those steps, because even if they do have them, they may not be aware of them. um but yeah, I mean, I can't automate any process that doesn't have an actual process.
I
um
think that's a very good point. And I think what you've really explained is you can help them, but it sounds like a lot of times the current state, what we call the current state process, that's not even documented. So how is it you can help define, I can make changes in this area or make changes in this area if it's not, currently defined in a step-by-step process so that you can see where you can make those changes.
yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like a lot of times you're going in there, and are you helping them initially document what that current state process looks like so that you can find ways to automate?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
If it's possible, I do try my best for that. Talk to different people, anyone who has a touch point in the process, to kind of just reiterate what I've got. Make sure that like I go through, I elicit, make sure that I have the process, and then at the end, I'll go to them one last time just to confirm that this is the process. Like here's step by step what I've
Mhm.
gathered, what I've put together for you. Confirm this, yes, great, and then I'll start building the automation.
Has there ever been a scenario so far where you've gone through that process documentation and there was really no opportunity for automation? Or is there always some opportunity for automation even though no one else sees it?
I have, yeah, I during training there was one process where they needed scheduling done, but the scheduling had way too many variables in,
Hmm.
like this may be delayed because of so many different reasons. or they had so many different reasons why they would escalate something, or and I just can't automate something that has so many things that it depends on
Hmm.
when making that schedule, or when they just move things around willy-nilly.
Hmm.
So I did give them a suggestion to better use Microsoft Planner to help with their scheduling,
Hmm.
where they could manually move tasks around and stuff like that, but that would be on them.
Right.
That like I can't build their schedule for them.
Right.
So I gave them like a sample of Planner on how they could manage using that. Like I
Hmm.
just built it out how I imagined that they would want it. And I showed them capabilities, but unfortunately I wasn't able to actually provide an automation.
As you reflect back on your journey of starting your education as an accountant and then shifting, kind of pivoting, like, midstream, um, I'm going to ask, but it sounds like that you feel like you made the right choice.
I really think I did. I really did. And even if I vary away from automation at some point in my life,
Hmm.
I still really like business improvement, just improving efficiencies in the processes and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So I still have a lot of options. Like even if I get bored of automation, I can't imagine that I will.
Yeah.
But if I do, I have so many other options, especially
Hmm.
with my accounting degree, my background, business background,
Hmm.
uh, all of the research and that I've done so far, all of the connections that I've made.
So you're now starting your professional career journey, and you are in a group that we call Women in Technology. So congratulations.
Thank you.
When we think about women in technology, a lot of times women who go through their education don't have a wonderful advisor like you that maybe knows you better than yourself. I think that's quite extraordinary that occurred. But do you have any advice or some recommendations that you can give to other women like you who are in their college career that maybe hadn't thought about that before? Because, like I said, not everybody's going to have this wonderful advisor to help pivot. What are some things that you can leave behind for other women who are going through a similar experience and hadn't thought about it?
I would say, I know it's kind of stereotypical, but don't be afraid to try new things.
Mm-hmm.
Like look at all of the opportunities that are around you, all anything that your school provides, really uh, dig into those opportunities and take advantage of them. And at the same time, you may have a set path in your mind as to
Mm-hmm.
what your career, what the rest of your life is going to look like, but don't be afraid to vary from that. Like if you find an opportunity that you really like and you think that you may like that better than whatever your path is, go for it. Like, because the worst thing is just sticking to your path just because you feel like you're forced to, even when you may not want to stay in that direction.
I think that is absolutely perfect for everyone listening. For those of you who cannot watch the video, every time Skyla talks about technology or automation, she gets this really super big smile on her face. And if you can listen a little bit more carefully, you can hear the passion in her voice changes when she talks about technology versus when she talks about accounting. So all of that also tells me, as someone watching and listening, that you did make the right choice, and I think you are going to have a fantastic career ahead of you. And I think you're also really well positioned to help others.
Thank you. I hope so. I really do want to help others. I love what I'm doing right now.
So, Skyla, I think this was also your first professional interview in your career. Is that correct?
It is, other than a job interview.
You did exceptionally well today, and I appreciate your candor and your thoughtful responses. And honestly, thank you for taking the time to join me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.